Tales of a Ghost Town. It's been drizzling for the last 10 minutes when I walk into the small town, better referred to as a trading center, where everyone goes about their business. The smell of dust after such small drizzles forces me to pose for a second or two before heading north of the town. On foot, I climb the small plateau of the town, and as I approach its flat top, an old acquaintance calls out my name. A twist of my neck sideways, and there he is, weeding his groundnuts. We share pleasantries and a recap of old memories, most being our time together at a primary not too far from the small town. He gives me a head start to a story I'm chasing. The ghosts of this town and its neat-boring villages continue to haunt it, he said, before citing a recent death of a child, age 10, just about a fortnight ago. The child died under mysterious circumstances. However, rumors have it that a feud over a plot of land near the church's farmland could have led to the kid's demise. Others say the child went to the well in the evening and might have encountered those legendary ghosts that the village elders keep cautioning their kids about. Nonetheless, most of the youth from the area still consider it a myth that has been passed on from one generation to another to scare them against moving at night. The natives of the area continue to point fingers in different directions, but it's still sorrow for a family that had only 2 kids. On the fateful day, the parents, names withheld, of the little girl say that she left with a 5-liter jerry can at around 5 p.m. to go fetch water. She was wearing a checked dress capille, a uniform from one of her former schools. Letitia's mother narrates as she breaks down in tears. Seated on the same bench, her husband, though bemused and dumbfounded, tries to console her. The look in his eyes is one of a man on the edge of an emotional breakdown. The wounds of their loss are still very fresh and bleeding like those of a mother that just had a C-section, only to say the least. Letitia was taking a while to return home when her mother got a bit inquisitive. But then, she thought the delay is the usual case where kids go and play too much while at the well. As the clock struck 6 p.m., her dad takes an evening walk to the trading center for a catch-up with his buddies. But as he steps out, he calls out for Letitia, only for his wife to tell him that she had gone to the well. She is, however, taking too long to return. It's been about an hour or so, she further clarifies. Maybe she returned and made a stopover at the neighbor's place on her way back. She's too playful these days, Alina Omuzanyo Mungi, Tata Letitia said in response. I will go check when I'm done with the peeling, Mama replied as her husband left. She says it was nearly a half past the hour of 6 when she locked up the house to go to the neighbor's place to see if her daughter was there. No big worries yet. She walks the nearly 120 meters distance with her little boy Jack, aged 6, to go find her daughter. Unlike the previous 3 occasions, this time round she wasn't there. I got a heavy pound of the heart, and that's when I started getting worried. The neighbors said they had only seen her on her way to the well. I left Jack with the neighbors and rushed to the well to see whether she was still down there. I don't even remember the last time I ran, but that evening, I took off like some sort of madwoman. When I got to the well, no one was there, but her jerrycan was. It was starting to get dark. I called out her name, screaming them multiple times, but there was no response. Mama Letitia recounts. Running up the hill, gasping heavily, I shouted on the top of my voice, crying for help, asking whether anybody had seen my little girl. A few people who quickly gathered around asked me to sit down and tell them what had really happened. Sitting was, however, not an option. While I briefed them, one of them reached out to my husband, who also came rushing. Although the time was shifting, the evening and night ahead had been blessed with the light of the moon. Touches were pulled out, and those blessed with some simple solar lamps didn't leave them behind as the village team, highly dominated by men, led the way back to the well to mount a search for our Letitia. With them, they also carried big sticks and pongas. The search began at the pond-like well, when one of the people suggested that maybe she had drowned. When the search there yielded no results, we continued downstream into the swamp, but we could only go so far, paving the way with our pongas and big sticks. The place was so waterlogged as we moved inwards, and yet no one was well equipped to deal with such a situation. In the meantime, more people had joined the search, but it was nearly 2 hours and the girl was nowhere to be found. The group split into 2, with one heading northwest of the well, while the other moved eastwards. I was part of the group that went in the northwest, where we penetrated into thickets and bushes. However, it wasn't too far inwards when we discovered traces of blood, and that's when I collapsed. My husband tells me that they had to rush me to a clinic in the trading center where I spent the night. Although a few continued with the search, Letitia still couldn't be found by the time they abandoned the hunt after losing the short trail of the traces of blood and retreated to their homes at just a few minutes past midnight. At dawn, against the doctor's advice, my husband and I retreated to the village to join the search teams that were going to continue with the task at hand. Meanwhile, the area leaders had been put under notice about our missing daughter. Using a mobile local portable public address system, announcements were passed throughout Magad Central and the surrounding villages of Magad North, Magad East plus Magad West. The people who gathered at Mr. Muon's home, the village LC1 chairman, were divided into 4 teams to head in different directions. Being a village of not too many people, the biggest land of the area is covered with grasslands, bushes, thickets, and a few forests, not to mention the vast swamp that occupies the better part of the south. Only one of these is a planted forest that belongs to the village as a whole under the Tukulakulane Village Initiative. Each group had at least 12 members and was led by a policeman from the local station at the trading center. The team that returned to the northwest parts of the well, where traces of blood had been discovered the previous night, went with 3 dogs to help in the search. My husband was holding me by the arm for strength, but I still couldn't hold the tears back. I was sobbing all the way with a lisu wrapped around my shoulders. I just had that bad feeling, an intuition that our daughter was no more, especially given the history of the area. Approximately 100 yards into the tall bushes and thickets, the dog started barking with each, trying to get off its leash. The officer at our guidance then asked that they let go of the dogs and just run after them to see where the trail they had picked could lead. The dog sprinted off, but without a clear path to follow through. Not many of us could keep up with their pace. After running for a while, the officer and the 2 gents that tried to keep up with them through the bushes say they suddenly stopped when they reached a very big tree that stood tall in a small cave-like thicket. About 40 yards out of their stop, one of the gentlemen came towards us and told my husband, "Mama Letitia Mutwale Iwaka. Take her home. She is dead. Letitia is dead, and we can't let her see the body," he said, breaking me into a loud cry as my husband also broke. We both stayed in the consolation of other people as some made phone calls to the other teams to alert them on the tragedy. Tears following from everyone's eyes. We take a break from the really emotional story. People gathered as police officers inspected the crime scene while they kept us away at a reasonable distance. Meanwhile, Letitia's head was still nowhere to be found. With the aid of dogs, the search went on for kilometers in and around the bushes, but it was nowhere to be found. Police finally gave up looking before ferrying the body to the town clinic where it was kept. For 2 days, her body laid in the mortuary as the search for its head went on in the midst of police investigations. In the meantime, funeral arrangements were being made at my husband's burial grounds, about 2 kilometers east of our marital home. A meeting held by the family elders at their ancestral home agreed that the body be laid to rest without its head to avoid accumulating expenses of having it kept in the mortuary/clinic. I didn't agree with the decision made at the time, but I also didn't have much say in the matter given the circumstances. My husband had already welcomed the decision. As we talked about this with him, that's when I remembered that I hadn't seen Jack in since Friday when I left him at the neighbor's. He, Tata Letitia, told me he had seen him with Margaret, Jack's favorite paternal auntie. In the afternoon, Monday, the body was brought home and laid to rest without its head the following day amidst wailings. According to the area police station OC, Aaron Bagamizamu, the case is yet to be closed, but preliminary investigations are yet to yield any concrete leads. He, however, says that they will continue to pursue the matter. He adds that ritual sacrifice and witchcraft could have motivated the murder of the little girl and not the land wrangles, as alleged by some. A word with Mr. Muonj, the LC1 chairman, who tells me that Letitia's death is the 3rd we've had in the last 5 years, and all have been linked to the witchcraft. The first 2 were boys, but no body parts were taken in these cases. They just had their throats slit. Nonetheless, no one in the area, comprising of all the 4 Magad villages, is known for practicing witchcraft or even being a traditional doctor. A good section of the citizenry thinks it's outsiders, while others still stick to the ghost myth stories that continue to be told. For Mama Letitia and her husband, The grave thought of losing a child is one that will be very hard to forget. Literally, every now and then, their 4-year-old son Jack keeps asking them where his sister is, where she went. And it's never an easy question to answer whenever it pops up. Hi everyone, this is Robert K. Circles. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, I'd be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. Give us a like on your favorite podcast platform. Leave a comment letting us know what you thought. We love hearing your feedback. And if you know someone who might enjoy the show, please share it with them. Your support means the world to me and helps us reach more listeners. Thanks again for being a part of the Robert K. Circles community. Until next time, take care.